So I custom cut these pieces down, and I basically carefully wet sanded it with a file right here. And I cut it with this mini saw, and this is what's left of the piece that I cut off. I just make sure I had a little extra at the end, at the sides here, so that I could file it down to make sure that it was, straight. Otherwise, I was worried if I cut too much out on the bottom, where it was attached, then it would, wouldn't sit flush or flat. It'd be like a slight angle, if you know what I mean. It wouldn't sit there, or maybe like this much. I don't know. You just want to make sure it's cut straight as much as possible, or shaped really straight, which I think I did. So, on to attaching it, and hopefully I do it right. Okay, so these are basically ready to go, I think. This is how it looks like. The bond's pretty good because this stuff just goes right in between the cracks. Capillary action, pretty much. With small space, the cement will just flow right in, and this, you don't need a lot. And just brush it real quickly through over the gap, and it just runs right in, and it'll just seal it. And it dries pretty thin but pretty solid. And like I said, I try to get it right about halfway, because I want it to be halfway up, not all the way up, otherwise there wouldn't be anything there to grip onto. But I definitely didn't want it. I thought about it, and I really didn't want it to be exactly in the same spot that it was before, because I do feel like, as I mentioned, it's a little bit far back. Just even nudging it up about half a stud would still help, and it should be fine to be, once I put it right next to the other tile that's right there, right? And then these two, the 1x3 and the 1x2 tile right up here, those on both sides will be removed, and this will stretch all the way across, 1x6 all the way up to that hole, that stud rather, and yep, one on each side. And that's it. And I'm just using this stuff here. It's great for the model kits, just when you got it trimmed and sanded edges, and the parts are ready to be fitted together, commit it, you just meet them up and just quickly brush right over that, and barely leaves a mark where it goes into, and if it does, leaves a little bit, because it does melt the plastic ever so slightly, at least on the surface. That's fine. It's some light sanding will probably cover it up just fine. It's, unless you use a heavy amount, then yeah, it could really it could get pretty messy, because you could do a lot more damage if you put too much. But you just push on just enough, and it's real quick, and this lasts me for a long time, and it's great for like this. And I shouldn't have a problem with it, because the way I see it is, like, again, like other, like Lego, if they need to make something to a specialized part that didn't exist before to get a new model out, they'll do it. And I'd say definitely, like Mattel, they do this. I don't have my my Honda, the other the S2000, but they have a lot of unique parts that they did to just make sure that the model comes out as close to accurate as possible, because there's just no stock parts that can quite do it. No matter how you try to fit it, it's going to be a little off. Just like, like back there, that's basically these ones from Power Bills. Like this one, that's the same as, they're primarily, I believe, like somebody's done a mock, and they did the work into customizing it, and I think they just bought the rights to produce it, to Power Bill, as far as I understand it. So I think if you look online, you could probably, or Rebrickable, you could probably find either one of these somewhere, I imagine. But I think he's originally designed it, has sold, and I guess commercialized it, just allowed it to be sold as a kit, parts already put together, so that's kind of cool. So anyways, in the vein of the idea of just what is it? Invention is the mother of necessity, or necessity is the mother of invention. So I need to have a part that fits this thing that I'm going to do right here. And this is the key thing that baffled me on how I was going to do it, because there's no 1x5, and then if I needed a 1x6, which I do, this is in the way and I can't move it up. I got no place to go. I could try to piece it together without, without a strong connection on across the top, and hopefully it'll hold. But I don't want to be that fishy. I can easily see just fitting this into place. It's just going to want to move in, maybe just pop out. Just so there's nothing really holding it up except for that one stud back here, and it's just hanging out. And same with this side, coming in wherever it goes, whichever way I go. Yeah, that's not going to work. So this is what I need to do. And it's going to be a pretty good bond, I think. I will let this cure just a little longer. I think it's basically done, but just a tiny bit longer while I redo this part. Hopefully, this is confusing as heck. I can reconstruct what I planned out here, and we shall see. Okay, so here is the completed piece. I'll share something in a moment. So yeah, I think this gives the right effect. I think if I commit to putting this in there and building around it, I think I need to add a piece of black vinyl to the back there, so it looks more like a port. It just opens up into something, into the car, instead of just going into white. I think that'll help out. But you can see this is where it fails. It doesn't connect in the bottom right there. This has to be a separate piece. You can see, I can just pull this up, but it does connect here. So that's why, now that you see this, and what, hopefully if you can remember what I talked about earlier, why I couldn't do a 1x5, it had to go all the way across, and because the only two connecting points at the top would be here and here. There's really nothing for 4 studs across. That's the best I can do, but it's going to wedge into here anyways, diagonally out this way. And this is the piece that connects onto back there, so that should secure that. Hopefully it won't separate too much here. What I had to do also was, this is not an issue, but these were having issues clearing the seat. So let me see if I can get this in now. Yeah, I think actually this piece was facing the other direction, the black piece right there. I may have to remove this. Let's see. So originally it was actually facing this direction, but I still think that's going to interfere. Yeah, with that getting in there. Just enough to keep that from lining up with the hole down there. Even if I could, I can't really move it up more. Now if I remove it, let's just pop that out. See, I have a lot more room to play with here. It just does that much more. And I just basically need to force fit this into that hole and then just make some adjustments. So hang on. Okay. Slight problem. That guy is just enough to hit this to keep it from sitting flush. I think it's just enough to push it out of the way. I tried again, but I don't believe it's going to fit with, well, I took that piece out. But once I try to get that in, that little, this piece, sorry about the focus. This piece, well, I removed it. It's supposed to go into this piece that's inside there. Yeah, it's just a little bit too close for that, I think. Let me take a look again. Okay, I believe I can get this to work now. I got even the black piece back in. What needs to happen, it's a little bit of a bend, but I think it'll still work, is I put this white piece onto that piece in there first, and this section is separate. And I fitted this in, and this basically started fitting everything back in together. And with that in mind, it should work. Once you put all the other pieces on, sorry, once you put all the pieces on, it should work. This part comes out slightly, and I don't know if I can, maybe once I start getting the other pieces fitted in here, it'll start to work. Now this is the other trick here. Make sure this all fits in as well. This is supposed to go in and fill in that gap in there. And you can see the way this is attached. It can be easy to separate. We'll see what happens. So, I believe just push this down. I should grab it from the bottom and squeeze it, because this, if I push down, the fender and wheel might pop up. So hang on. Okay, so basically it'll be something like this. I still need to get, let's just get the other parts on. I'm going to have to take this apart again, but the thing is, it should be, you know, reversible or repeatable. And then the windshield will go on. So, and it should look something like that. Here. I think that's passable when you compare it to this side. I mean, it's cleaner, but then it's missing that vent. You need the vent on the side here. That should work. Again, it's very close to that stud on the inside, and it's potentially why it's not sitting down like this ever so slightly. But for the most part, I don't think it's going to matter. And then maybe once I start getting some decals on, it can be distracting and you won't necessarily see that. I think for the most part, after a while, you just get used to it, and it's just the way you're going to do, trying to make rather square pieces, basically trying to make some bit of a complex curve going in this way. You know, it's going to have some bend, and some parts are not going to meet 100% because it's, you know, squared right angle corners and stuff against each other, and trying to make a slight angle or turn, right, pivot. But yeah, I think that's it, and I do think that this mirror placement is better too. It's a little bit more forward, and no one's going to really know unless you really look at it and start to wonder, what the heck's going on there? So yeah, I think that's the plan. Like, everything fits together. Actually, this doesn't feel loose at all, because everything's just like wedged in there pretty tightly, and then everything else, that should work. Cleanness, could be a little cleaner. I'll see if, I don't want to really go in there and cut that one stud out. That's, you know, on that gray one that's behind here. It may make it flush, more flush though, but God, it's a pain in the butt, because it's part of this. You can see it back here, that gray one. It's like a, well, basically it was like one of these before I took out the studs, but you know, it's gray that comes up. I guess at this angle, and then the studs are on top. I could get there and cut it, but is it worth it just with a little bit of alignment? Hold on a second. There's two things. One is that, see how it's just sticking out a little bit. And then I think this could potentially keep this from lining up back here. I'm going to test some things, but I'm pretty sure that's maybe a cause of a little extra gap here compared to this side. Although, you know what, it does kind of have it. If I don't point it out, no one's really ever going to know. But I think this looks a lot better. At least there's some kind of port or vent there on the side, just to, you know, give that look. I'll give it some thought whether I want to, if it's actually cutting that one stud on in the back behind this piece, it's actually going to maybe tighten this up a little bit more. Guess we'll be back and see.